Hello and welcome to Green Stuff Studios. Today we're gonna have a look at a beast of Nurgle that's been sculpted out of a bloat drone. Gonna look at some tools that were used, some materials, and some tips and tricks that went into sculpting this bad boy. So you can see he's a big worm. He's got some arms, he's got a mask, he's got a tail, and he's got a friend in his tail. It's gonna be a bumpy ride, so strap yourselves in. Let's go. First things first, we're gonna need some materials to build this guy from. Starting with some milliput to make the basic body, and then green stuff to make everything else pretty much. We're gonna need a bloat drone, or the parts from the bloat drone we're actually using, which is just the main body and the head. Head comes right off, and the body can be split in two. Yeah, look at me go. Here we are. We are also going to need some armature wire. First some thin made of aluminum, and some thicker steel wire, 1 millimeter. In addition, 2 millimeter plastic tubes made out of plastic card, and glass beads from Green Stuff World, the ones that are smaller than 1 millimeter. Alright, we're almost at the sculpting. There's one thing left to do. Gonna take the bloat drone and we're gonna cut off the lower part with a knife or modeling saw, since the top will be upper body and the lower part will be the end of the tail. Then we mix up some milliput and make a big sausage, and we sculpt the lower body and the tail. And we make this a very simple shape, just segmented and some creases sort of where the upper body bends to the upright standing-ish position. And we use this metal tool to do that. Just cut into the sausage at regular intervals, and then grab our large clay shaper to make it look a little nicer. Still, it's milliput, it's a horrible material to work with, so it won't look that pretty. So after we're done and it has dried, we grab our files and we make it a bit smoother. With the milliput done, we can get to the green stuff part. The green stuff part is not that complicated. We just want to make it smooth, and the shape is very basic, simple. So we mix up our green stuff, plop it on there, and we work it into the shape we want with our clay shapers, large and small. And at times, as you can see here, the creases were a little too far apart, so you make a little green stuff sausage and you work it in there just to add some more detail. And we also grab this ball point and we push it into the green stuff to make a little growths into the flesh, to give it a little bit of extra detail. I also sculpted a mark of Slanesh here into the end of the tail, and I talked about this in my VIP video, so if you want a more detailed description you can look at that. But the simple explanation is that I used the small ball point and just poked it. Now for the front of the upper body, we add 3 pairs of breasts to 3 of the top segments, and quite simple, just breast shape, let it dry, add a nipple, done. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And you can see if we compare to the original bloat drone that having breasts give it a more upper body look than the original model has. And that's something we're after here. It's carpus time. The carpus is, as you can see here on the original model, it used to have a rider, so the carpus is rather smooth in the middle part, and it also has holes for the wings that the original model has. And that's something we're going to have to cover up. But first we need to remove some of the parts that are in the way, like this spike and the little plug where you stuff the rider. And after you remove that, easiest thing to do is to add a new spike with green stuff. So to make it easier to sculpt the carpus on top of it, like the hard edges. And also when you do this, fill in the holes, so those aren't in the way. And it's not that complicated. I start by making the rough shape, and then I make a softer green stuff that I use to smooth it out. And when it's almost dry, I take the spatula and I make the little marks in the corpus, just to make it look uniform with the rest of the corpus and give it a little bit of extra detail. Now for the arms. This guy has 6 of them, which means that we want to make them as simple as possible, because we're making 6 of them, and it's boring to sculpt the same thing more than once. So how do we do this? I've shown this in a VIP video, but I'm gonna make a little demo here. We take plastic tube and we take some steel wire, snip it off, put the wire inside the tube like that, and then your camera freaks out. Yay! Bend the top. This is where the claw is gonna go. Yeah, claw-like, perfect. And then we give him a little elbow, bend it here, and the nice thing now is that the steel wire makes the elbow, the whole armature thing quite firm, even though we just have broken the plastic tube. Then we need to add some green stuff. I don't have green stuff, I have blue tack, but you get the idea. Put it on top here, make it stick, and then you shove it into the arm socket of the original model that you have lying around, if you're like me. You let that dry, dry, and then you remove it. And you cut off you don't pull it off, you cut it off, most of it, except for the part that has been inside the ball joint. So it can stick in there in a nice way. And with that done, we're gonna add some details to it. We have the basic arm shape now. To make it easier to work with, and since we're starting with sculpting the upper arm and the elbow, we take our hand drill and we attach the claw inside. Alright, we're gonna start sculpting and we're starting with the shoulder, upper arm, elbow and part of the lower arm, just so we can make the elbow. And we do this as simple as possible because we're making 6 of them and it's boring. So we make arm becomes a little thinner by the elbow, and then a little crease, an edge and a crease, and add some detail by just pulling the sculpting tool along the almost cured green stuff. And with that done, next session is the claw. We make the basic claw shape by just shoving some green stuff there, so we have something to work on top of, and we let that dry. With that dry, we just sculpt the claw, and with the upper arm, give it a little edge as it goes up against the claw. And some extra detail by pulling the sculpting tool again against the claw. Nothing special. Time to make the little butt worm. How do you make a butt worm? Start by grabbing some aluminum wire. Grab your hand drill. Bend the aluminum wire. Don't do this. Bend it before you cut it so it doesn't look crappy like this. Jam it in there. Pull it tight. Grab your pliers, twist it, have it break, swear a little bit, jam it in there again, make it tight again, twist it again, works better. Alright, good times. Squeeze the head so it's not as big. There we go. And then you reshape it into the shape of the butt worm you want. Maybe S shape is good, a little bit to the side. Give it some depth. Alright, and to make sculpting easier, just grab some green stuff. I'm going to show with blue tack. Just use your fingers. Just push it against it to use something for the green stuff to adhere to later when you're sculpting actual details. Yeah, easy peasy. As for the sculpting, the tentacle part is easy. Just add some creasing, try to give it some detail. Keep it simple, nothing special. And as for the mask, it's a little more tricky. You start by just making it plain, like that. Yeah, look at this picture. Just make a smooth green stuff area. Add a little line for the mouth and poke 2 holes for eyes. And those 2 eyes you can then fill with glass beads. See, okay, there I used a spatula as I'm showing right now. And then glass beads. Am I showing you glass beads? Yeah, here we go. Glass beads right there. Pop those into the eye holes you just made. Let it dry. Afterward, I have developed a technique where I start by making the forehead and nose. Then I add the cheeks and finally the part around the mouth. Make the general shapes, let that dry. And then I add more green stuff to make things like the shape of the nose, the lips, the eyebrows, to make it look a bit more, give it a bit more detail, make it look not as flat and more like a person. I mean, the face is nothing special. It doesn't really look like a real face, but it's what I'm going for. I'm making these masks because it gives me an excuse to practice sculpting faces. The head of the main body is made in the same way, maybe a little more detail. I made a lower eyelid, tried to make a creased forehead. Didn't work out that great, but I'm sticking with it because I don't want to redo it. Not that much more to say. And there you have it. That's all the sculpting I did. As you can tell, it's a pretty big miniature, and I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. I mean, it's very different from a bloat drone. It has the correct size for a beast of Nurgle, and I don't think anyone would be confused as to what it represents in the game. And it wasn't that complicated to make. So yeah, good times were had by all, especially me. If you made it this far into the video, I want to thank you for watching. I tried some new things this video, such as actual editing, voiceover and background music, and I hope that it shows. Please join me in the future for, I don't know, maybe more Beasts of Nurgle. We'll see. Ta-ta for now.